Psycho killer. Mise en scène.
It's the Film Flamers.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hi, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
Guys, it is Pride Month, and we really wanted to choose a movie to talk about that sort of fit into the horror
oeuvre.
Yeah.
We are a horror podcast, but technically we're also a gay podcast.
And we wanted to pick a movie that would check both of those boxes, and so we decided to cover
Stranger by the Lake.
And this was a first viewing for both me and Chris. I have been wanting to see this movie for quite some time, and I think I sort of talked him into adding it to the list this year for Pride Month, right? So it's been on the list since we started this podcast. Yeah. And we both watched it for this recording.
So Stranger by the Lake, or in French,
L'inconnu du lac,
is a 2013 French drama thriller film written and directed by Alain Guiraudie.
Si, parfait.
Oh, wow. The film premiered in the Uncertain Regards section at the 2013 Cannes Film Festival, where Guiraudie won the award for Best Director. The film also won the Queer Palm Award and was mentioned on multiple top 10 lists of the best films of 2014.
That's right. It played in many, many festivals that year after Cannes, and I think that it was very, very highly regarded, and I think that we'll probably talk about that fairly soon. But
before we get started, this is
L'inconnu du lac,
Stranger by the Lake.
Franck, played by Pierre Deladonchamp, spends his summer days visiting a quiet lake in the French countryside, which is very popular for nude sunbathing and anonymous gay sex. On his first visit that summer, he befriends an older man, Henri, played by Patrick Demassaud, who seeks quiet and solitude after the recent breakup with his girlfriend. While they shoot the shit, Franck notices a man, Michel, played by Christophe Pau, swimming in the lake and watches him as he enters the woods. Frank feels an attraction to him and excuses himself to follow the man. In the woods, Franck joins other men cruising the grounds. Some are trying to make connections, while others are already engaged in sexual activity or just watching. He finally finds his mystery man, who is already boning another guy. The next day, Franck returns to the lake and encounters Michel while swimming. On the shore, they exchange pleasantries and flirt a little, but are interrupted when another man walks up and demands that Michel join him in the woods. Upset, Franck joins Henri further down the beach and explains that every guy he meets or is interested in seems to be coupled. After Henri leaves, Franck enters the woods and gets an awkward handjob from a rando. After the handjob, Franck walks through the woods and notices Michel and his lover swimming and playing with each other in the lake. He watches from his wooded cover, and the couple's play gets a little more rough. Michel eventually drowns his lover in the deepest part of the lake. Franck watches Michel calmly leave the beach and head toward the parking area where Michel notices Franck's car. A terrified Franck leaves his hiding spot after nightfall. Very late the following day, Franck is sitting alone on a deserted beach when Michel approaches and joins him. The two share a conversation, a kiss, and a blowjob. The days pass and their relationship grows. They continue to meet in the woods for sex, but Franck becomes frustrated with Michel when he only wants to see him at the lake and never at home. When the body of the drowned man is discovered, an inspector begins to question men at the lake about the victim, including Franck and Michel, who each lie to him about their awareness of him. It is clear from the inspector's questioning they are both considered suspects. After a spat leaves him a little perturbed with the other, the two men once again find themselves sitting on the deserted beach. Michel invites Franck into the water to swim with him, which Franck, unsure of what will befall him in the water, refuses. While watching, Franck reluctantly joins him in the water, where the two kiss and make up. After that, they have what can only be described as painful, rocky beach butt sex. Seemingly happy with Michel again, although still wanting more, Franck returns to the lake and talks with Henri alone. Henri shares his feelings with Franck and describes his semi-platonic feelings for him, while also sharing that he finds Michel to be a strange and suspicious man. The conversation is cut short when Michel interrupts them, and Franck joins him at the beach. While Franck goes for a solo swim, Henri approaches Michel and in so many words accuses him of murdering the drowned man. Henri enters the woods and insinuates that Michel should follow him. Back on the beach, Franck finds them both gone and goes into the woods to investigate. He finds the two in the tall grass of the woods, and Michel stands and walks away. Going up to see what's going on, Franck finds Henri with his throat slashed and bleeding out. Unsuccessful at trying to save him, Henri tells Franck to let him die, as that is what he wanted. Fearful of his own life, Franck hides from Michel, who is searching for him in the woods. He spots the inspector walking around and suddenly hopeful for his safety, until Michel steps out of the woods and stabs the inspector in the stomach. Franck again hides, while Michel shouts his name, begging him not to leave. Night begins to fall, and Franck no longer hears Michel shouting for him. He stands up from his hiding spot and begins to shout Michel's name into the darkness.
Fiend.
All right, but that's a pretty bare bones synopsis of this movie, which in itself is a pretty bare bones kind of movie.
I would definitely agree with that.
Right. I mean, but the reception for Stranger by the Lake is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 93%, with a critical consensus that reads, "Sexy, smart, and darkly humorous, Stranger by the Lake offers rewarding viewing for adult filmgoers in search of thought-provoking drama."
I almost agree with all of that. Sort of some like what's the word I'm looking for? Consensus.
Yeah,
Did you find it humor?
I did not find it darkly humorous at all, really.
I didn't laugh at all in this movie.
I mean, maybe a little bit with there was like this one dude in the woods that was like jacking
yeah.
There was like a little bit of weirdness.
Or in his
it was more darkly humorous because it was just awkward.
Yeah, or when his husband shows up at the beach that one particular time or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that would be funny, but by and largely, I wouldn't say it's darkly humorous.
No. Metacritic gave the score a film of 82 based on 26 critics, indicating universal acclaim.
And reviewing on Roger Ebert's website, Michael, oh my God, I have to read that word.
Oleszek?
How you say it?
Oleszek?
Michael Oleszek awards the film 4 out of 4 stars, praising Guiraudie's direction and acting of the cast. He writes that Stranger by the Lake is the sexiest and most elegant thriller in years.
The Village Voice film critic, Melissa Anderson, calls the film Guiraudie's... God, I can't say that fucking name. Guiraudie?
Yes.
Guiraudie's most sexually explicit and narratively taut work, adding that the writer-director's attention to anarchic pull of lust, simultaneously celebrated and reproved here, is sharper than ever.
Are you aware of Guiraudie's other work?
Not really.
So, I mean, obviously he makes sexually explicit movies in France, perhaps. I mean, if it's his most.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is pretty most. We'll get to that in a minute, I'm sure. In January of 2014, the film was nominated for 8 César Awards at the 39th Annual César Awards, with Pierre Delanchamp winning the award for Most Promising Actor.
Interesting.
So, I mean...
This wasn't a huge release. It was made for a budget of $1.3 million and made a box office of $1.6. I don't know how much marketing went out for this, but... You could say it made its money back, but depending on the marketing, it didn't.
I mean, I will say that, when the movie was released at Cannes, and I heard things about it. I heard that it was, a gay horror movie, first of all, and that it had some very explicit sex. Mm-hmm. And it was always sort of on my list of things to watch, and I just never got around to doing it.
Yeah.
So, they probably could have benefited from a little bit more marketing. I don't remember this movie ever playing anywhere in the States. I'm sure that it must have, but
maybe. Might have done a run in smaller theaters and,
it's possible art house or something like that.
Yeah, art house theaters.
And you would think that something like this you would find on a streaming service or something at this point, but you really have to go and search for this movie in order to watch it.
No, I just watched it on Amazon.
Yeah, but it's not just there. No one's putting it in your face ever.
Oh, no, and why would they?
And you wouldn't really search for it unless you have heard of this movie or wanted to see it. Or,
yeah, and also I generally don't watch French movies.
Okay.
So based on the algorithm, Amazon's going to show me things that are in English, right?
True.
Based on my watching history. And for most English-speaking people or people speaking their own language, unless you're watching a lot of French movies, it's probably not going to put that in front of you. So this is ticking off a bunch of things in the algorithm like LGBT, as well as French, foreign language, horror, all these things. So I just don't think that's, a lot of people are getting those boxes ticked off for them in that algorithm. So that's probably why. But it's there. If you want to watch it, it's on Amazon.
And I have to say, moving forward, I could possibly be just the tiniest bit biased in this conversation because, A, I'm a gay man, and B, I'm a Francophile, and I love anything that has to do with French culture.
Sure.
I love French cinema. I especially love French horror, and I sort of like really embrace everything that is involved in that culture, specifically to others in the world.
Although I would argue that this film is fairly stripped bare of culture in a way. Right? Because it could almost have taken place, on Fire Island or something in New York.
Well, exactly. I mean, and it's really not stripped of culture in that particular sense because the culture that it's trying to show you is like gay culture.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so there are many places around the globe that gay men sort of flock to in their own particular countries, right? Things like Fire Island here in the United States, or even specifically here in Texas, things like Hippie Hollow, right? We all have a place like this where we can go and be free. And, a sort of like sexual or like nude sunbathing sense, whatever you want to do, right?
Sure. Although I think this one's more to do with the actual sex, the cruising, right? Not just about the sunbathing and stuff. I think like Hippie Hollow is more of like you can be naked, but there's no sex, right?
Oh, I mean, there's not supposed to be any sex. But I mean, even in this particular sense, at this particular lake, even the sunbathing is not supposed to be nude, right? They say that. Is it legal? And here's like, well, people do it anyway or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I've been to Hippie Hollow and there's lots of naked people. Men and women, right? But there's also woodsy areas around it. And I'm not going to kid myself. I'm sure that people are doing some things in that woods they shouldn't be doing.
Sure,
anyway.
Of course. I remember walking on Fire Island and seeing those bags of condoms hanging on the trees.
My husband really wants to go to Fire Island, and I'm just like, well, he's got it built up in his head, and I'm like, I don't want you to be disappointed when you get there, and it's not.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it's not like this movie like makes it seem like, man, this is like they all hang out in this one spot, and they're all just like intercoupling with one another over and over and over again, and going into the woods, and like you can't basically walk through these woods without tripping on someone having sex. Like that's not Fire Island either, right? So this is maybe a little heightened for this.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot going into the fictionalization of cruising, in this particular movie. But I think that since you talk about over and over again, I think that one of the things that we see in this particular movie that I think is, sort of representative of people in, a cruising environment is sort of the ritual of what they go through. Right.
Yeah. And the director did say that the setting of the film was based on his own experience, a real lakeside cruising ground that he knew and experienced. Right. So although it's not shot at that particular lake or part of the lake that he experienced, this was based off of his own experience.
And so Chris and I were talking off mic about the time period in which this movie would take place. It's sort of really unclear, but we know from the director that he said it was a very personal experience, a lake that he had visited before, and we get some sort of clues that he gives us here and there, the make of cars and maybe like some of the attire that people are wearing, and combined with his own personal life, I think we've sort of like pinpointed it to like the late 80s or early 90s, right?
Yeah, probably early 90s based on the car conversation they have. Like, oh, they don't make that anymore. That's super interesting. And that car in particular, based on our sleuthing, stopped getting made around 92. So this might be early to mid 90s. So the director also said it was a very personal film for him because, of course, the film was directly addressing and dealing with his own sexuality on screen in an explicit manner. Very explicit.
I'm no prude, but I was a little shocked.
Yeah, I'm not used to seeing this. I've seen nudity. I'm comfortable with nudity. It's natural.
Right.
Right. Sex is natural.
Right.
But of course, I'm not used to seeing like erect penises.
No.
And hardcore sex happening. Or I wouldn't say hardcore. They allude to that obviously, but they do show like, ejaculation.
Yeah.
And all of that, like at least twice, I think, in this film.
And they show, a person's mouth on an erect penis in this movie.
Oh, yeah. And of course, they don't show the full face because, of course, the hardcore shots were filmed using body doubles because he thought that would be asking too much of the actors to have sex on camera, obviously. But he also stated the problem that professional actors couldn't get strong enough erections, so he thought it best to use body doubles. But he had actually flirted with the idea of casting porn actors in the two lead roles, but he didn't like their acting, so he went around and cast professional actors instead. But he did audition porn actors.
And thank God, because I can imagine. Okay, let's be clear, everybody. I mean, we've all seen some porn, right? And we know the kind of acting that's involved in that sort of thing. And we don't need somebody coming up on this beach, talking about a 12-inch sausage. I mean, well, it's French, so I mean, whatever that is in like centimeters. But so we need to have a good level of acting. And I think I really think that the acting in this movie is great. I love it.
Yeah, it was pretty solid acting. Of course, the explicit parts, there would have even been more had the actual like porn actors refused. He wanted to actually show penetration shots, but they refused because he didn't want condoms in the film to be more authentic for the cruising, I guess. And they refused to do any penetration without condoms.
So can you imagine if he actually had those penetration shots in this movie, right? And if you're an audience that can, I think that the cut of the movie that he ended up with is perfect. I think that if you went a little bit beyond this, I think that there would have been some sort of backlash against this movie. And there's not. Surprisingly, people accept this movie just for what it is.
What's interesting is that there was a lot more backlash about the poster.
Oh, I know. And that's ridiculous, too, because it's like a fucking painting, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think that the level of like sex that he showed was perfect. It was shocking enough, but tasteful enough, and I think it furthered the story along.
Maybe. I mean, movies have been doing this for decades, just by hearing someone panting loudly that they've, completed, right? Without actually showing the full event. But, now I've seen people come in a mainstream movie, so
yeah, well, there's always that.
Good on him. So one thing that I'd like to talk about is just how bare bones this movie is. It was done really, really simple. There's no, like, the crew was never over like 20 people, right? It was shot in 30 days. They did natural lighting when they were shooting it. All of the sounds in the film were shot on location, as far as like the sound of the waves and the trees and nature and everything else. There's literally zero music in this film, either non-diegetic, like a musical score, or diegetic, like on-screen music, like playing in a car or something.
Right.
Like you just don't hear it at all. Not even the cars like going in and out of the parking lot are playing any music, apparently.
Nope.
Like there's just nothing. And I thought that was very interesting, very bare bones. And it was actually originally 2 hours and 18 minutes long. It was actually a lot longer than it currently is, with a lot more sex scenes instead of like cutting away to nature, and a lot more dialogue scenes. And I'm kind of glad that he kind of cut it down to this, because it does have a nice pacing. I didn't get bored exactly. No. It always kept your interest, and it moves along very steadily and rhythmically. And I thought that was important to succeed the way it did.
All those cutaway scenes to nature, right, just sort of like add to the environment. I think that this movie does a really good job of immersing you into the world in which you're being presented. I mean, not everyone knows what it's like to go to a lake or a beach that is a cruising ground for gay men. And he brings you in such a way as a director that makes you part of the story. You feel like you're a person there at that lake, sort of watching the drama unfold, even when you're seeing POV from a character standpoint.
And it was interesting because a lot of people try and do that with like a handheld camera where it's like documentary style or whatever, but this was all very smooth, steady shots. And yet you're still kind of immersed in this world without having to do that kind of messy camera work. But it is a very clean film, like the way it was done. And I'll definitely give it that.
It's minimalist, and it's fantastic. There are often times, and we talk about score on this podcast quite a bit. I think we're both fans of music and film, either be it like, pop or the score itself. And I didn't notice the absence of music in this movie.
I did. And
I know that you would,
I've had these conversations where music can make or break a film.
Yeah.
I would be super interested to see what a score could do for this film. Because a lot of the acting in here is kind of subsumed, sub under the layers, wrapped in the onion layers of this film.
Yeah.
Because the guy is like, one of the guys is like his friend, an older friend that had tried to get over. Yeah. I can't say any of these names.
It's the last time I make you watch a French.
Yeah, like I can tell you how to pronounce like the German and Eastern European, but you can tell me how to pronounce the French. Like I can't do it.
We'll just call him Henry.
Yeah, I was like Wojciech. Why can't you say Wojciech?
Because
why can't I say Guiraudie? Like I don't know if I can't So anyway, we have our problems, but No, like he's supposed to be like depressed to the point of suicide or whatever.
Right.
And I'm used to a little bit more melodrama in my acting to foreshadow that kind of thing a little bit more. The frustration that Franck feels with Michel and vice versa eventually, you know, all of that is kind of wrapped in and in a way a little bit more realistic for I think how most well-adjusted, mature people would act, which is kind of refreshing. But it also was kind of surprising in character motivations. Like there's a part in this film, like I was completely on board, right? Until he witnesses his crush killing someone, literally drowning someone to death in the lake while he's watching from his hidden point in the wooded area, right? So as soon as he's watching this happen and he's like, well, I'm not going to call out, I'm not going to save anyone because I have a crush on this guy. Like I put myself into that situation. I cannot put myself into those shoes. I cannot feel empathy at that point. I don't know if I have some sort of internal hardcore, you know, wired morality or something about that sort of thing. But like, I would be the guy that's like, stop what you're doing. Get out of the water. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Get away from him. You know, all that stuff. You might have something to do with a near drowning experience I had. I don't know. But I feel like if someone was trying to like set someone on fire or like hit someone with a brick, I'd do the same thing. And if the guy is just not shouting out and just because he has a crush on the dude.
He looks terrified when Michelle is walking away. I think that he is like literally scared to death at that exact moment. He doesn't know what to do.
Well, obviously not, because the very next day he's trying to get in the guy's pants immediately. Well, and then not only that, but later on he gets in the water with him. Right? And it's just like knowing that this is what happened to the last guy he was with. And he just knowingly does that. And I'm just like...
Okay, he gets into the water with him first before the guy dies. He sees him swimming. He gets into the water with him and a chance to like bump into him while they're in the lake.
He purposely does that, yes.
Right, and that's the same day he gets the hand job from the rando, right? After the hand job, he sits there in that wooded cover and watches this long 4-minute POV shot of him drowning somebody, right? And we don't see his face again until Michel is gone. And Franck still sits there until darkness falls to even get up. He's that terrified of his situation.
He doesn't want to, I think with the primary motivation there is that not that he's scared, but that he doesn't want Michel to know that he saw.
I disagree completely. I think that he is terrified because even he knows what happened to that guy. And whenever he shows up the next day, he's constantly looking at the blanket or the towel and the shoes that are left from the guy that was drowned.
Yeah, of course.
He knows right? And he's actually terrified of Michel himself, but strangely attracted.
And still completely goes after him. Like completely soon right after that.
And this is, I mean, like this is when the movie really takes a different tone. It tries to show you like how far desire can go, right?
Yeah, no, totally. And that's what I got. Like, that's what I got from that was that his desire for this dude was so strong that he was willing to overlook a murder and then like the very next day go after him again.
Well, I would go even further than that.
That's why I would say he wasn't scared to death, because if he was scared to death, you would think he wouldn't A, show up there again, or B, literally go after the guy again like the next day.
Well, and this is when I think that the desire shown in this movie is not just necessarily the desire for one particular person. I think the desire shown in this movie is the desire on Franck's place to have a person of his own, to have a boyfriend or a lover or a husband or something. He wants it so badly that he's willing to overlook a particular flaw.
Totally.
And so the next time...
as flaws go.
I mean, like there's a big one. But you hear stories...
He's a murderer, but I love him.
You hear stories all the time about like serial killer spouses who are like, there's no way you could have known what they were doing. And they're like, no, I had no idea. I mean, like clearly...
Of course, this isn't really like a familiarity issue though, right? This is a guy that's like had a mad crush on him, didn't know him at all.
No, but I even think that, I mean, like sometimes if you find somebody and you're so like deeply set in your attraction, or even as their relationship grows, he falls in love with him.
Yeah, and I think I get that intellectually, but the fact that he just like goes straight back to him and tries to hide so that from your point of view, he won't find him and get killed. From my point of view, so that he knows that if Michel knew that he was watching and saw what he had done, that he wouldn't have a chance with him because he'd be too paranoid that he'd go to the cops or this or that.
Well,
right?
and I think
it might be a mix of both equally. Even.
I mean, it really is.
It was very conflicted, right? It's very conflicting, but not conflicting enough to where he went back and decided to pursue that relationship again. But this is where I kind of checked out morally from like the film, and I started to really more identify with like the friend on the beach, right? A little bit more. And then it kind of does that surprise where he kind of he knows also that the guy somehow was a killer. And just based on what the detective's kind of boiling down to.
Well, I mean, I think that
and then basically goes and baits him into killing him.
Well, he says too. At that particular
so that
conversation,
death by cop in a way, like death by murderer, right? You're baiting this known murderer.
He says to Franck that you are too enamored of him to realize what all of the rest of us on this beach seem to think,
which is a weird dude. Yeah,
that this guy is like mysterious and bad.
Yeah,
right. And I mean, we have spent the greater part of this movie. I mean, after the murder, the entire movie is about their relationship, right? And how they are growing to either love each other in their own particular way.
Yeah, and they go back and forth a little bit, which I liked, where he got a little too close and Michelle kind of rejected that. But then Michelle kind of gets a little too close and gets jealous. And they have that back and forth. And so you're thinking, oh, maybe he's not the same. Maybe he doesn't want to kill him. Maybe he's not like a serial killer or something. And maybe that was just context
I think
specific.
that is Franck's actual point of view in that movie. He's like, I think if he can love me enough to not kill me, then I have found someone I can be with, right? I know that he can kill people, but clearly he won't kill me because he loves me. And I think that the scene that really shows that the most is the next time they get into the water, when Michelle is like, come for a swim with me. Yeah. And Franck already knows what happens when you're alone on the beach with Michelle and you go into the water with him. Yeah. He was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he sits there on that beach.
And then he goes in.
And he watches him swim. And he goes in anyway. And he's like, you know what? I love this man. I know what can possibly happen. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yep.
And he gets into the water and you're like, well, this could be the end of the movie. He could kill him right now.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. They kiss and then they fuck right there on the beach. You know what I mean? And then even for a brief moment, the viewer can be like, well, maybe he's not going to kill him or whatever. But I mean, even that sort of suspicion continues on. I mean, like they go back and forth between like, I don't know. I mean, this movie in itself can be wrapped up in a synopsis of he knows something that he knows something that he also knows that he knows and someone else knows that he knows. And then here we are. You know what I mean? And so I mean, people keep calling this a Hitchcockian movie, right?
I don't see that at all, really.
I mean, it certainly put the cock back in Hitchcock, but I mean, fuck. So, I mean, I don't know. So Hitchcock likes to he makes movies that are similar. I mean, like there's lots of voyeuristic qualities in a Hitchcock movie, right? And it's certainly not unheard of that Hitchcock makes a movie where someone witnesses a murder of another. I mean, like Rear Window does this sort of thing, right? I mean, I can see the Hitchcockian qualities in this. I think the motives in these characters are totally different than the motives in a Hitchcock movie. I think those characters have a different means to an end.
No, I can see why they would say it, but I disagree with it. But there's shades of it, I guess, in a way. Some sort of subsumed mystery, but the difference is mainly, especially with those earlier Hitchcock films, where maybe the murderer isn't really like shown until the end or something, right?
Yeah.
But what did you think about the ending? Because it was really, to me, kind of ambiguous. So essentially, what happens is that Franck is like going on his way, sees the detective or whatever, who, of course, he's also kind of implicated in these because he witnessed and the detective's doing a good job at his, work and knows that the guy knows something. Anyway, he witnesses Michelle murder the detective, come out of nowhere and kind of murder him, stabbing him in the stomach. And so he stays hidden until complete nightfall, I would say, because it's already twilight. And then, of course, it ends with Frank at the end calling out, deciding against it again, making that same choice again, and calling out Michelle's name in the darkness, right?
Well, and this is after Michelle has been standing there calling Frank's name at that point, right? So Frank is hiding. He's scared. He's seen people die. He's seen his good friend die. And Michelle is calling his name and he's saying like, Frank, come out. Please don't leave me. He's saying all the things that he wants to hear, right? And Frank waits until there's nothing, silence, right? And then he gets up and starts screaming, Michelle's name into the darkness, right?
Yeah, like he had made that decision again, like I'm going to get over my fear and I'm just going to put my faith in this relationship.
I love this ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find it ambiguous for different reasons. Like I don't think that, or let's just say I don't care. I don't care if Michelle is standing there waiting to murder Franck.
So the ambiguity of that is that you don't know if he's calling his name to be with him again, really, or if he's calling to see if he's there.
I think that he's calling his name to be with him.
Yes.
I think
that's the original ending too. And they just shortened it essentially because in the original ending, they show Franck looking for Michelle again. And then of course the two then kiss and make up and then drive away together. So
that's a terrible ending. I mean,
so it ends basically after he says, Michelle, they show up, they kiss, they embrace, they drive away together finally. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Right. So like I said, I kind of checked out fairly early in this film with putting myself in any kind of shoes or empathetic spot with a protagonist.
Right.
Because of that first choice. Like to me, that's just a boner killer. I witnessed someone kill someone. Sorry. And I just could not empathize any further. Obviously, I'm in the minority because the vast majority of people that see this film, at least critics, film lovers, love this film. Like it's universally acclaimed.
Well, I don't know if they like it because of like its technical achievements or something like that.
I think if they hated the story, it wouldn't have that score, right? If they hated it, and then that would be in the critic consensus. It would say that despite a lacking story or morality, you know, or something, right? No, this is universally acclaimed or whatever, and it's thought provoking and everything else. But I stopped provoking my thoughts after that choice was made, and I just kind of checked out of that. Now after that, I was like studying the film like from a filmmaking point of view and stuff, so I get it. I did not hate this film. I just didn't really like it. But like I said, I know I'm in a minority here.
And I have to disagree. I mean, I have said on this podcast before, I have talked about movies that I didn't like because I could not empathize with the character, or there's not a likable character, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not like you can empathize with somebody, if there's not someone you actually root for or whatever, I mean, like I get it, it completely ruins a film or a story even. But I sort of do root for Franck. I mean, I get it. He's lonely, and he desperately wants a connection. Sure. He has that kind of desire, not just for sex, but just like to connect with a person. And you see that because he talks to Henri on the beach, somebody that he tells Henri when they have his whole like come to Jesus part of it, where he's like, I love you like a friend. You make my heart race. I want to see you every single day, but it's not about sex. Mm-hmm. And Franck's like, like he doesn't want to sleep with him, but he appreciates that kind of connection. And I can put myself in that situation of being a lonely gay man who just wants to be with somebody, especially when you first come out of the closet, and so,
come hell or bloody water.
And I mean, like, I know that you and I are good people. And if we see someone murder somebody else, I mean, like, we're not going to go like pursue them afterward. Right. But I mean, in this guy's particular situation, I think that he was scared. I think he was apprehensive. And I think that his desire sort of like took him over to a point that he really wanted to test him and say, like,
fair enough.
I don't think he's going to kill me. Yeah. Right. And also I think that, I mean, for whatever convoluted reason was in his brain to continue pursuing Michelle, maybe he thought it was a one-off or something like that, which doesn't excuse anything. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is a horror-adjacent movie.
Well, I thought he had a good head on his shoulders and like...
Oh, no, he does not.
Apparently not. And then, he like makes that decision. I'm like, no, you're a trash person. Like, you're just trash. Like, that's what my view of him was after that. I'm like, you're not going to help save this guy. You're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to at least tell a detective. You're still going to show up the next day and trying to bone this guy. Yeah. That's where I checked out. And I know. Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is that like this particular storyline it's not unheard of in like cinema, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like Hitchcock even has storylines like this about like loving someone is a murderer, Mm-hmm. And I mean, like we said, there are some real life examples of this sort of thing. I mean, it's not completely unheard of.
Yeah.
And then, like I said earlier too, I was completely immersed in this particular movie. And I think that even if I were in that particular situation, I might have a clouded judgment. I don't know. I mean, everyone's had some attraction to someone that you know is not right or whatever, but I don't know. I think the entire time I was watching this, I just kept putting myself into the shoes of, a 16-year-old Robert coming out of the closet or wanting to, right? And to understand what it's like to be attracted to someone that you shouldn't be with, quote unquote, to the people who tell you that, or, what you want and what your desires are, and to be completely so lonely that you just want whatever companionship you have, as long as it fits that particular box, right? And I love it. I love this movie for that.
Yeah, I completely get that. And they do bring that message home. And I get the motivations and the things that are trying to make you think about, as far as like the nature of attraction and longing and
or even the nature
and,
of love.
Because even the ancillary stories are about that, right?
Yeah.
There's that relationship with the guy that tries to go out and get some other bone. There's the friend there that has platonic love, that he's getting over an old relationship. And there's all of the aftermath for all of these things, right? But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, this guy, he's at this casual place where you can hook up with almost anyone, and he has to choose this one guy, that first or second day. And it's just...
I mean, we watched the movie. I mean, hopefully, listeners, you've also watched the movie, and hopefully you understand, like, the attractiveness of men or whatever. But, I mean, like, if you look at the people on that beach, you know what I mean? And you had to pick one person to sleep with, I mean, like...
Well, they did try and find someone that looked like Tom Selleck.
And he does. He does look like Tom Selleck.
They purposefully did that, yeah.
It was amazing how similar they look. I mean, and he's a charismatic person. I mean, I've never seen him in another movie or anything like that, but I mean, if that's just how he acted as a real life person, I would be attracted to him. I mean, he was friendly. He had a nice smile or whatever, I mean, I also go back to love in general. When you fall in love with somebody, you're sort of blind to their faults, right? I mean, even though you may recognize it, you sort of like dismiss it, right? And murder's a really big fucking fault.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of things like, oh, they can't, they're passive aggressive, or they might do a little white lie every once in a while,
but not drown somebody in a lake.
They don't take showers. I don't know. But if I witnessed them murder someone, I don't know. I think that would, no, I do know that I would be running the opposite direction after I, tried to save that person. But
they probably running after you too in a real life situation. Yeah.
They should be killing me, not the other person. I don't know. I'm just no, I'm not going to sit there and watch. I'm not going to be complicit to that. No, I would feel horrible for that. No.
Well, and he continues that complicity too, because he lies to the detective so many fucking times.
So complicit.
And that's
he might as well be a murderer himself.
And that inspector comes to him and sort of was like, okay, I get what you're saying, because at every opportunity, every character in this movie goes to Franck and tells them, hey, what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
From Henri on the beach saying like, you're too enamored of this guy to understand exactly what's going on, to the inspector saying like, have you ever stopped to consider that the lifestyle you're living is probably a little dangerous? He was like, it's okay to be gay, but maybe it's not okay to like come out here and fuck strangers or whatever. He was like, you should be worried about yourself now. And he's like, the look on his face at that point is like, oh, maybe you're right. And then the very next scene, he's just like, oh, Michelle. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, he makes bad choices.
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
I really love in this movie the rituals that go on, right? I mean, like they show the progression of time so well in a really almost annoying way, right? When all the cars are like pulling in and everything. So it's a different day, but
it's 10 days.
But it goes to show like the rituals that are going on in this particular area. It's always the same cars. They're just parked in different spots, right? He walks out. It's always the same thing. He walks from his car to the beach. People look at him awkwardly, right? And those camera shots of people like looking straight into the camera even make me feel awkward.
Yeah.
He takes his clothes off. He goes in the water. He comes back in. He goes to the woods and fuck. Whatever.
Rinse, repeat.
Yeah. And that's exactly what people do day in and day out in this particular place, right? And I mean, again, I've never done that sort of thing as a gay man, you know, and I would like to think, well, I don't even like to think, I can't even say that it's unheard of because people still do it today. But
Yeah.
I think that cruising for us now has taken on a more like technological standpoint, right?
Sure, of course.
I mean,
like the grinder age.
yeah,
all that
grinder
stuff,
and
yeah.
scruff is essentially just cruising. You're just doing it from the comfort of your fucking toilet or couch or whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I just I love that the way this movie just starts and finishes each particular segment with that car, you know, him driving in. And I love that. Michelle,
Essentially, they're all going hunting and fishing every day.
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
I mean, I love it. I don't,
Just different tackle.
I have not seen a movie that really talks about that particular aspect of gay life since the movie Cruising itself, you know, from like 1980, the Al Pacino movie.
Yeah.
And then more recently, the movie Devil's Path,
I haven't
which
seen that.
just came out this year. I talked about it on a previous Shooting the Flames episode. And it's an American movie about cruising. And it tries in its own way to be Hitchcockian in its plot. And the plot gets a little too convoluted. But there are some amazing differences between what an American movie about cruising is like post 1980 and a French movie of what cruising is like, right? And so like we have Guiraudie's like version of cruising where he goes so far as to be as ballsy as to have these like hardcore sex scenes, right? And the American one is so watered down that there's like the briefest of like sex scenes in this movie about gay men cruising in the woods. You know? There's no actual sex in that movie and it just pisses me off. How do you feel gay sex and gay life was portrayed in this movie? I mean, as somebody who has watched movies about gay people before, I mean, do you think that this is more of a celebration or not about gay life?
Neutral, because so this film, and especially if you compare it to some other movies, let's take Cruising, for example, right? Yeah. They share a lot of the same tropes, which includes like all gays are promiscuous, right? That's a trope. So this one is possibly averted due to the highly contextual nature of the film. It's centered around a cruising spot, right?
Right. So they're supposed to be
all the gays are going to be there, are essentially going to be promiscuous. Barrier gays. The vast majority of victims in this film are gay. Again, possibly subverted or averted rather by the highly contextual nature of the film. It's literally
there's no other person to bury. Right?
Cast full of gay, with the possible exception of the detective. Who knows? Mainly gay. Pretty much the entire cast. No one is seen having a particularly camp or effeminate moment. You might say like the guy's like significant other at some point. Maybe.
Yeah, he was the only one that was remotely feminine.
Yeah, right? Even remotely. You know, so it's just interesting to me. Like, if you're a straight person and you're not part of any kind of subset of gay culture, if there is such a thing, right? Yeah. Are you going to watch a film like Cruising or Stranger by the Lake and basically base your view of what gay is or to be gay is off of these films? And I think it's not the responsibility of these filmmakers to answer that question. No. Never should be. No. Right? But at the same time, it's a little problematic to me that that's just the nature of humanity. They see something they're not familiar with, and that's their only judgment. That's their only experience. So that's their entire experience. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's the problem with movies that are about being gay, right? Versus that have gay in them, incidentally, right?
Well, and I think that this movie sort of like is on the cusp of those things. You know what I mean? I don't think that this movie is about being gay.
No, that's true.
I think,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I do, and I think that the way that they explore this particular troubled relationship between Michel and Franck is, I don't know. I mean, I have mixed emotions about it too, but I mean, obviously, like it is troubled and bad.
He actually tried to make this between a straight woman and a straight man. He tried to do this in such a way.
I don't understand how that would work.
The culture doesn't exist for public hookups like this in the same way.
Exactly.
Right? They have bars for that. Stuff like that.
I mean, we have bars for that too, but we also have rest stops and Home Depot. So I mean, like, I mean, shit. I just think that I love the fact that this movie crossed some taboo lines in film, like showing things like an erect penis and showing like an actual blowjob or a cum shot or things like that. I think that ultimately it's a huge celebration of like gay sex. I did not feel bad about being gay watching this movie, despite even the inspector's warning about like, you know.
But we're also gay, right?
Well, I guess that's true.
Someone could watch this and have like a moral judgment on it, even though the film doesn't have a moral judgment on it. You could say Cruising from 1980 doesn't have a moral judgment, which is actually impressive for its time.
It's
honestly.
true. I mean, really.
But I would say that just as a note for maybe any of you straight people that are watching these films, and this is like one of your only experiences outside of normal pop culture, but I would say the majority of gay people out there are not public cruisers like this, either in the sense of cruising, like in the leather scene or whatever, or in this film where there is very just like casual, generic public cruising, right? This thing is not something that all gay people do. You know, just like in cruising, not everyone's into like fisting and stuff, right? Like
or leather,
right? I mean, it's like just like you wouldn't watch like Eyes Wide Shut and think
that everyone goes to sex parties.
Every straight person, you know, is going to these sex parties with masks and everything else, right? So it's like that. So think of it like that, right?
Well, and I think too that so the idea of sex has always been something you don't want to talk about, or, I mean, even people should not be looking for sex before they're married at a certain time point in American history or whatever. Yes. But that is not the case today. I think, like, we have Grindr and Scruff, but even straight people have Tinder, right? And so there is a fair amount of cruising that is going on between, like, both straight and gay people. And it's not unheard of for people to be promiscuous. And I think the idea of promiscuity today is far less taboo than it was 10 years ago even.
Sure, but even then, you're going to see a lot more, aggression against promiscuity when it's a woman or a gay man.
That's true. I mean, so it's perfectly fine for cis white straight men to go and...
Well, I don't even think...
They didn't have to be white. Yeah, I mean, so straight men in general, you know? Yeah, so like just straight men can go out and like fuck whoever they want to, but like gay men and women, we're just, the people who go to lakes and try to like get a hand job from a rando or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I know it's terrible. And I hope that people don't actually see us that way anymore. And I know that the movie Cruising itself caused that kind of controversy. I mean, that the gay community was up in arms about, how it depicted gay men. And they didn't want them to think that this is what gay people were like. And I think we keep talking about Cruising quite a bit in this movie.
And it's hard to say because it's like, you want to be sex positive,
right.
And there's nothing wrong with sex. There's nothing wrong really with promiscuity. It's like you be careful for your own safety, I guess. But at the same time, it's like what I want to just be careful of is regardless of whether you have moral judgments on these things, you do have a view of a group of people. Our brains are meant to organize and categorize information.
It's true.
In order to make sense of the world around us. This is how we're built, right? It's nothing wrong with us per se, but we do simplify things and we put people in buckets. So if you're putting everyone into a cruising bucket or everyone to a fisting bucket or something, that's just not the case.
Oh my God, a fisting bucket? I think I would avoid that bar at all costs.
The fisting bucket.
Do you want to go to the fisting bucket?
No, I'm going to the ramrod. Yeah.
Thank you. Ramrod only. We're going to the manhole.
Yeah.
I think the one final thing I wanted to say about this movie is that I really enjoy movies especially, but also stories that have a very limited like setting and a very small cast of characters. I think that they tell the most compelling stories.
Yeah, and I like films like this because we have very good discussions about them, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, with so few characters and a very small setting, it really opens up the conversation about the differences between like how you feel and how a character feels, and you get to talk about these sort of things.
Yeah, there's not one simple path of understanding this film like there are with so many others.
Right.
Obviously, just listening to myself and Robert discuss this is obvious that there's different ways you can take this film and react to this film. And that's just one of those things that this film can take credit for.
And I will say, so I watched this movie several weeks prior to this particular recording, and I just loved it so much that I got onto Letterboxd and rated it 5 stars. And Chris subsequently watched it, and we had some small conversations. We try to keep those conversations minimal so we can do this recording thing. Right. And then I watched it again last night, right before this recording, and I was expecting to sort of downgrade my review a little bit, not because I was influenced by what he had to say, but I thought that maybe circumstances were so that I thought this movie was just like perfection. And I did not downgrade my rating. I think this movie is about as close to a perfect movie, in my opinion, as there is. I can see myself watching this movie so many times and getting so much out of it every time that I watch it. I think it's a prime example of minimalist like cinema that really lets the viewer make their own decisions about everything that happens. And I love it so much.
I'd still love to see what someone would do with a soundtrack for this, with a score. I'd love to see what a score could do for this film. Whether it would, and be very interested, like from that point of view, to see if it would hurt it or help it, depending on the score. It'd be interesting. Or neutral.
I mean, if we're going to go back to like some Hitchcockian conversation, I mean, like some of the best scores in cinema is from Hitchcock, right? And so, I mean, if you had something that's very similar to that, I mean, it could go a long way. But I really enjoy just like, I was talking to my husband this morning and we were talking about the lack of score in this movie. He hasn't seen it yet. I really wanted to watch it. And I was just like, like Chris really enjoys a film score. I
was thinking something like a lighter version, maybe like a more melodic version of Under the Skin.
No. I think that this movie has a score though. It does. It features the score of nature.
Oh, please.
I mean, come on.
Jump across this table and
that's fine. You can go ahead. You can drown me in your pool as soon as we're done.
A little too artsy-fartsy for your own good.
I can't help it. I mean, just like, I've got such a fucking boner for this movie. And I mean, like, hearing the water and the leaves blowing in the trees and birds chirping and perhaps in the background a guy, like, having some fucking orgasm or something. I have no idea. I mean, just like, it's natural to me. It sounds great. And I mean, I also love music in movies.
The sound of film critics furiously masturbating to this movie.
That's me. I mean, I can't help it. Shit. We can keep talking about this movie until the end of time. But I think that we have a couple more things to talk about. And first being, we have talked about the movie Cruising from 1980 so much in this particular podcast recording that I think... So our next episode usually is a top 10, right? And I really think it's Pride Month. We're talking about a movie about cruising that's more recent. I think that we should go and watch Cruising and then come back next week and talk about it a little bit more.
The 1980 Cruising with Al Pacino?
That's right.
And Powers Booth?
Powers Booth in his really small role. But I haven't seen Cruising in quite some time. I'd like to revisit it and like do some sort of a comparison. I mean, like, if we're going to talk about like gay horror adjacency, this is the month to do it in. I mean, what do you think? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
surprise, guys, you're getting 2 movies this month.
That's right. Let's do Cruising next week. So top 10, you out for this month. But with that being said, here at the Film Flamers, we have a series of questions we like to ask about the movie that we've watched. Number 1, Chris, is L'Inconnu du Lac a horror film?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah.
On multiple levels. Definitely a psychological thriller.
For sure.
And that's always adjacent enough for me. So, I mean, you've got murder, you've got intrigue, you've got whodunit, even though you know whodunit. You've got all that stuff. So there's multiple murders.
Because I think the suspense is really not about who is the killer. It's whether or not he's going to kill one specific person, right?
Yeah, and what they're going to do about the people that know about it are going to do about it. And
on my first viewing of Stranger by the Lake, just a few short weeks ago, I thought to myself, well, we finally have an answer to a question that's not something that we have said previously, and that's always, yes, this is a horror movie. I thought, no, this is not a horror movie until the last, like, few seconds of it, like... Really, it's not. But on my second viewing, of course it is. I mean, like, the awkwardness of cruising, the scared, like, feeling you would get going into that sort of situation, like, permeates this movie all about it. Not to mention the fact that the person that you are in love with could murder you at any fucking moment.
It's safely in horror adjacency.
Right.
So
agreed. And also, I mean, like, in the pantheon of erotic thrillers, it's up there.
Yeah, sure.
So, were you scared while watching Stranger by the Lake?
No. Not at all.
Yeah, I really wasn't either. I mean, I couldn't even say I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, of everything that we've really, there's not even that much suspense.
No, there's really not.
There's a little bit, I guess, if you're
either he's going to kill him or he's not.
Yeah.
And he was in so many situations with this particular person that he could have killed him a number of times.
The most suspense you feel is Franck in the hiding, in those scenes. But that's really it. And there is no fear or jump or anything like that. So.
And when a movie goes from like broad daylight into darkness, I mean, like you would feel a certain unease, but like the transitions between like daylight and night in this movie are not for suspense reasons. I think it's more of an artistic passage of time sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So they can't even like do that. So no, for the first time in the history of our podcast, I can safely say that I was not scared watching a movie.
Not even a little.
So, and that's almost unheard of because everything scares me. So, and finally, and some would consider most important, who's the hottest guy in Stranger by the Lake?
Who's the guy that played the Tom Selleck dude?
Christophe Pau?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's really no other person to say in this movie.
There's quite a few.
I mean, like, Franck is attractive in his own, like, everyman sense. But that guy who plays I said his first name. Christophe Pau, who plays Michel, is some kind of fine, I think. I mean, in a weird, like, late 80s, 90s
Tom Selleck kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I were at that lake. And, I mean, I'm going to France in September in just a couple months, so really I should figure out where the fuck this lake is. So, I mean, here we are in a place where we have had so many movies with strong female casts, and here we have one that's all men, and it's just not even a question as to who's the hottest. So, I mean, what else?
They set it up that way.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, guys, if you've seen Stranger by the Lake, please tell us what you think of it. You can do that on social media at The Film Flamers on Facebook or Twitter, or you can send us an email at
tiredqueens@filmflamers.com.
That's right. You could also go over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers to find all of our bonus episodes, including sequel ideas for Stranger by the Lake, which will be posted in June for all your Pride Month listening pleasure.
And you can listen to that and all of our bonus content, dozens and dozens of hours at this point, for as little as $2.
Like we just said, we've decided to forego the top 10 next week and do cruising, which I know I love, and I think we probably have a lot to say about, especially in comparison to this one.
Sure.
But don't forget that we have a brand new movie to cover in July, and it's the 7th month of the year, so what better time to cover what
7.
movie? That's right, 7. So fire up those Blu-ray players and watch that movie again. Everyone needs to revisit before we talk about it.
And let your voice be heard. Call into our hotline with your questions and comments. Call 972-666-7733.
And if you're a little shy and you don't want to do that, there's always Apple Podcasts. You can go and leave us a 5-star rating and review. We love to get those, and we always read them on our Shooting the Flames episode. Well, guys, until next week when we cruise you once again with the movie Cruising. Sweet dreams. Michel!
Shut up, you fucking murderer.
Bitch, that was Franck.